Hello and welcome back to Animal Farm. In this part, we are going to learn plot summaries of chapters 8, 9, and 10. In this fourth part, we actually complete the plot summary of the novel and we'll have another video on the analysis of the novel. In chapter 7, we have noticed that a lot of animals got killed in the animal farm and many animals were confused regarding the sixth commandment, which is actually no animal shall kill another animal. So, these animals, even though they were concerned about the violation of the commandment, they did not dare to talk about it in the presence of the pigs or dogs. And Clover actually wanted to read the commandment again. She asked the help of Benjamin, who refused to help her, and Muriel read it. But when it was read, it was like, no animal shall kill any other animal without cause. She sees that the commandment wasn't violated. The animals work harder than they ever have. The windmill, in addition to the regular farm work, means they'd sometimes wonder if they work harder now than they did for Mr. Jones, but possibly for less food. On Sunday mornings, Squealer reads lists of figures that prove production is up by at least 200% and sometimes up by 500%. The animals don't question this, especially since many don't remember clearly how things were before, but they also think some days that they would rather have more food and less of the figures. Napoleon is now seldom seen in public. He never goes out without the dogs, and now a black rooster that marches ahead and trumpets. In the farmhouse, he lives alone and eats off of the Crown Derby dinner service. Squealer and the other pigs relay his messages, and it's decided that the farm will fire the gun on Napoleon's birthday. These days, Napoleon is referred to as our leader, Comrade Napoleon, and the pigs refer to him as the father of all animals, protector of sheepfold, and other such titles. Animals credit Napoleon for everything from good laying rates to the clean water. Minimus expresses these feelings in the poem, which reads that Napoleon cares for everyone and everyone is faithful to Napoleon. Napoleon asks Squealer to paint it on the big barn next to a portrait of him. Napoleon busies himself negotiating with Mr. Frederick and Mr. Pilkington about the timber. Mr. Frederick wants it badly, but he won't offer a good price. And rumors still circulate that he wants to attack Animal Farm and destroy the windmill. Pinchfield supposedly still houses Snowball too. And in the summer, three hens confess that Snowball inspired them to try to murder Napoleon. After their execution, Napoleon begins sleeping guarded by dogs and appoints a big pig to taste his food for poison. Napoleon eventually agrees to sell the timber to Mr. Pilkington and enters into an agreement to trade regularly with him. As the windmill completion approaches, rumors of an impending attack from Mr. Frederick grow stronger, and the rumors circulate of all the cruel things Mr. Frederick does to his animals. One Sunday, Napoleon announces that he never considered selling the timber to such a horrible man as Mr. Frederick. He commands the pigeons to leave Foxwood alone and also to spread the slogan, Death to Frederick. Later in the summer, the animals discover that with the help of a goose, Snowball mixed the wheat and corn seeds with weeds. The goose commits suicide. And the animals learn that Snowball never received Animal Hero First Class. Rather, he was punished for cowardice after the Battle of Cowshed and made up the story of the honor to make himself look better. Squealer convinces everyone that their memories were faulty. The animals finish the windmill in the fall, though Mr. Wimper is still in the process of negotiating for the machinery. The animals are tired but proud of their work, and they think of what the windmill will be able to do for them. Napoleon announces that they'll name the windmill Napoleon Mill. 2 days later, Napoleon announces that he sold the timber to Mr. Frederick. He changes the pigeon's message to death to Pilkington, says the rumors about Mr. Frederick's cruelty are untrue, and insists that Snowball is living in luxury at Foxwood. The pigs are thrilled as Napoleon's dealing made Mr. Frederick raise the price by £12 to be paid in cash. The money will buy the machinery for the windmill. Mr. Frederick's men cart away the timber quickly, and then when it's gone, the animals gather to reverently inspect the banknotes. 3 days later, Mr. Wimper arrives with the horrible news. The banknotes are forgeries. Napoleon immediately sentences Mr. Frederick to death and warns that Pinchfield might attack Animal Farm. He also sends pigeons to Foxwood with nice messages. The next morning, Mr. Frederick's men attack. There are 15 men, many with guns, and the animals cannot stand up to the bullets. They are forced to hide, and even Napoleon looks nervous. The pigeons return with the note from Mr. Pilkington reading, "Serves you right." Mr. Frederick and his men gather around the windmill. At first, it looks like they are going to try to knock it down, but Benjamin nods in amusement and notes that they are going to blow it up. He is right. After the deafening explosion, the windmill is gone. The enraged animals charge. Boxer kills 3 men and the dogs bite and terrify the rest. The animals win, but they are bloody and tired. They gather around the windmill foundations and note that they won't even be able to reuse the stones. Squealer skips up to them, looking satisfied as the gun booms in the distance. Squealer cries that it's to celebrate their victory. Boxer points out that this wasn't a victory since the men destroyed the windmill. He insists that they just want back what they had before, which Squealer says is a victory. At the barnyard, Boxer feels the pellets in his leg and begins to mentally prepare himself to rebuild the windmill. It occurs to him that he is 11 now and maybe isn't as strong as he once was. However, when he and the other animals see the flag, hear the gun, and listen to Napoleon's speech, they all agree that this was a great victory. They solemnly bury the killed animals. Some name the Battle of the Windmill, and Napoleon confers the new Order of Green Banner on himself. Everyone forgets the forged banknotes. A few days later, the pigs discover a case of whiskey. That night, the animals hear loud singing that sounds suspiciously like beasts of England coming from the farmhouse, and Napoleon inexplicably gallops around the yard in Mr. John's hat. In the morning, Squealer is the first to emerge at 9 a.m. He announces that Napoleon is dying because Snowball poisoned his food. Squealer says that Napoleon's final pronouncement that drinking alcohol is punishable by death. By the next afternoon, Napoleon is entirely well and asks Mr. Wimper to purchase books on brewing and distilling, and orders that the pasture for retired animals should be planted with barley. One night at about midnight, the animals wake to a crash. They discover a broken ladder by the Seven Commandments, along with Squealer, who is stunned on the ground next to a lantern, a paintbrush, and white paint. The dogs surround Squealer and escort him back to the farmhouse. No one but Benjamin seems to understand anything. A few days later, Muriel sees that the commandment that she thought forbade drinking alcohol actually forbids drinking alcohol to excess. This particular chapter 8 is on the violation of two commandments. First, the commandment on killing, that is, sixth commandment, and the commandment on drinking, and how the pigs gradually changed the commandment into a convenient, uh, distorted commandment which helps them flourish while other animals suffer. It can also be noted that truth actually is distorted. It is changed because people are, or rather, the animals are not, um, they are not aware of their faulty memories, or rather, they don't remember anything, and they are convinced that even if they remember anything, it's because of their faulty memory. In chapter 9, what we see is that a boxer is suffering because he has a split hoof, and he shares it only with Clover about the pain, and all the other time he's actually working really hard to rebuild the windmill, and his age for retirement is 12. In Animal Farm, all animals retire at the age of 12, and Boxer is 11, and he wants the windmill to be completed before his retirement. His 12th birthday is in the next summer. The next winter is cold and hard. The animals, except for pigs and dogs, suffer reduced rations. Squealer explains that equality in rations isn't in line with animalism. And furthermore, they are not short on food and are doing better than they did in the days of Mr. Jones. He points out all the things that they are better now, and the animals believe him, in part because they barely remember Mr. Jones. They are also thrilled that they are free and not slaves. That spring, four sows give birth to 31 piglets, all obviously Napoleon's children. Napoleon announces plans for a schoolroom for them, but teaches them himself in the farmhouse kitchen. The piglets aren't allowed to play with other animals, and it becomes law that other animals should step aside for pigs. Pigs can also wear ribbons in their tails on Sundays. The farm is fairly successful this year, but it's still short on money. The animals need building materials and sugar for Napoleon. So Napoleon increases the hen's egg quota to 600 per week. He reduces rations twice over the winter, though the pigs seems to put on weight. In late winter, the animals smell cooking barley from the brew house and wonder if they'll get warm mash for supper. However, the pigs announce that the pigs will get all the barley as well as a pint of beer per day. Napoleon gets a half gallon. Despite the hardships, life has more dignity. Napoleon holds spontaneous demonstrations weekly to celebrate Animal Farm. This often takes the form of military style parade followed by speeches and songs. The animals enjoy the celebration as it helps them forget that they are hungry. In April, Animal Farm becomes a republic in need of president. Napoleon is the only candidate and wins the election unanimously. He uncovers more documents detailing Snowball's dealing with Mr. Johns, including some saying that Snowball led the human forces and shouted, "Long live humanity." Moses returns and continues not to work while talking about Sugar Candy Mountain. The animals like the idea of Sugar Candy Mountain since their lives are so hard, and oddly, the pigs allow Moses to stay and even give him an allowance of beer. Boxer works harder than ever once his hoof heals. Though all animals work like slaves, he is the one who works always better than other animals. His coat begins to look somewhat dull and he seems to function on determination alone. But the animals reason he'll pick up once summer comes. Clover and Benjamin want him to take care of himself. but Boxer ignores them. One summer evening, however, Boxer falls while dragging stone to the windmill, and the animals rush to him, and Boxer weakly tells Clover that his lung has collapsed. And he doesn't care. His work means the others will be able to finish the windmill without him. He is looking toward to retirement now. Except for Benjamin and Clover, all animals run to tell Squealer what happened. Squealer concernedly tells Boxer that Napoleon is going to send him for treatment at Wellington Veterinary Hospital. This disturbs the animals, but Squealer convinces them that the vet is better able to help Boxer. Boxer manages to limp back to his stall and remain there for 2 days. Benjamin and Clover stay at his side when they are not working and listen to Boxer talk about studying the alphabet once he retired. The van arrives to take Boxer away in the middle of the day, and the other animals are working. The animals are astonished when Benjamin races for them, braying that they are taking Boxer away. The animals race back to see Boxer in a big horse drawn van with lettering on the side. They yell goodbye to Boxer, but Benjamin reads the writing on the van: Alfred Simmons, horse slaughterer and boiler. The man whips his horses and they race down the drive. Clover shouts for Boxer to get out, and Boxer kicks a few times and he is too weak. They never see Boxer again. 3 days later, Squealer announces that Boxer died in the hospital, that he was with Boxer to the end. Boxer's last words were in support of Windmill, Napoleon, and Animal Farm. Suspiciously, Squealer notes that he has heard rumors that some animals believe Boxer went to the glue factory. This isn't true. Napoleon would never do that. No one, and for another, the veterinary hospital had just purchased a van from the glue factory and hadn't yet had the opportunity to repaint it. Squealer, Squealer's descriptions of Boxer's death and of the misunderstanding calmed the animals. On Sunday, Napoleon gives a speech commemorating Boxer and orders a wreath for Boxer's grave. He announces a banquet in Boxer's honor in a few days. On the day of the banquet, the pigs receive a crate at the farmhouse and spend the night singing. Rumors circulate that the pigs came up with with the money to buy whiskey. Now let's move on to the final chapter of the novel, that is chapter 10. Years pass, and soon only Clover, Benjamin, and Moses and some of the pigs remember life before the rebellion. Everyone else dies, and even Boxer is forgotten. Clover is now 14, and she is still not retired. Napoleon and Squealer are both huge and fat. There are many animals on the farm, but not as many as they had projected to have by this time. Because of this, most of the animals don't grasp the importance of the rebellion. There are three other horses besides Clover, none of them are intelligent. The farm is prosperous, bigger than ever, and better organized. The windmill is done, but they use it for milling profitable corn, not for electricity, as Snowball had proposed. Napoleon insists that animalism is about working hard and living frugally, not about electricity and a 3 day work week. Though the farm seems richer, the animals, except for the pigs and the dogs, don't feel any richer. Squealer talks often about how much work the pigs must do to supervise and organize the farm, though he insists the other animals are too ignorant to understand what the pigs do. Regardless, the pigs and the dogs don't produce food, but they eat a lot. The other animals are still hungry, sleep on straw, and labor in the fields. The older ones try to remember if life was better immediately after Mr. Jones disappeared, but they can't remember. They have nothing to compare their present to except for Squealer's figures, which show that life is getting better. Benjamin is the only one who supposedly remembers everything. but he insists that things have never been better or worse. Life, he suggests, is about being hungry and disappointed. The animals never give up hope and are proud to be a part of Animal Farm. They still feel immense pride at the sight of their flag, and they all believe that old Major foretold Republic of the Animals will still come. They secretly hum Beasts of England and take pride in the fact that all animals are equal on Animal Farm. One summer's day, Squealer takes the sheep to the outgrown part of the farm and browses and leaves them there for a week. He tells everyone that he's teaching the sheep a new song. Just after the sheep return, Clover neighs in shock. Squealer is walking on the hind legs. The other pigs file out the farmhouse on two legs as well. Uh, the dogs bark and the black cockerel announces Napoleon's entrance. Napoleon haughtily looks on the other animals and carries a whip in his trotter. The animals consider saying something, but once the sheep loudly bleat, four legs good, two legs better, the pigs go back inside. Clover nuzzles Benjamin and leads him to the barn where the seven commandments are written. She says that she still can't read, but she thinks the wall looks different. Benjamin reads entirety of the text. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. With this, it doesn't seem strange when the pigs all carry whips, purchase a radio, and install a telephone. It's not odd when Napoleon starts to wear clothes and smoke a pipe. A week later, several dog carts containing neighboring farmers drive up to the farm for a tour. They admire everything, especially the windmill. The animals aren't sure whether to be more afraid of the pigs or the humans. That night, the animals hear laughter and singing from the farmhouse. They creep up to the house, and the tall animals look in through the window. They see Napoleon sitting at the head of the table, surrounded by pigs and men, all with mugs and beer. A card game is in progress. Mr. Pilkington stands to make a speech and says that he is thrilled the era of hostility between Animal Farm and the human farmers is over. The farmers believed that the pigs couldn't run the farm, but today they saw that they were wrong. The pigs are setting an example. Mr. Pilkington says that the lower animals on Animal Farm perform more work and get less food than animals elsewhere, and he and his companions intend to copy Animal Farm's methods. He emphasizes that there is no reason for animosity between Animal Farm and the other farms. Mr. Pilkington chalks up on his own joke and then manages to say that if Animal Farm has its lower animals to deal with, the humans have their lower classes. Everyone roars with laughter and they toast to Animal Farm. Napoleon stands to make a speech. He says that the rumors that Animal Farm is rebellious and subversive is false. They just want to coexist peacefully and would never consider stirring up rebellion elsewhere. Though he knows nobody is suspicious anymore, he is going to make some changes. Animals will stop addressing each other as comrade. They'll no longer observe the odd custom of marching past Bo's skull on um, Sundays. The flag is now plain green too. Napoleon's only criticism of Mr. Pilkington's speech is that he spoke of Animal Farm, which isn't the correct name anymore. The farm will go by its original name, Manor Farm. They drink to Manor Farm. The animals outside see something strange happening to the pigs, but can't figure out what is and creep away. They hear an uproar inside and return to the window. They see that Napoleon and Mr. Pilkington each played an ace of spades at the same time, and everyone is shouting. The animals can't tell the difference between the pigs and the men. So that's the summary of the novel. Um, so we'll have another video with the analysis of characters and incidents in the novel. Um, Thank you for watching. Study thoroughly this part. Okay.